Michael Busacca is still with us. Mike, we were talking a little bit earlier about, whether you buy or whether you sell, whether you remodel, and the element of a plan that you have to instigate and really follow through with.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to it, and that's why I advocated, 3 months just on average to wade through all the variables. So a couple more important tips I'd like to pass on. One is, when you're thinking about adding square footage, because typically when people get to that point of should I remodel or should I buy and sell, it's because they need more space, usually because of kids. So when you're thinking about adding bedrooms, be advised that if you go laterally on the lot, you now have to build foundation, walls, and roof. If you go up, you're building just walls and roof. Now, you may have to brace the foundation. If you have an older home in Seattle, you may only have a 6-inch foundation wall, when in reality you need an 8-inch foundation wall with rebar. It has to meet uniform building code. So, I mean, it's not a perfect savings of not putting in a foundation if you just go up, but it is more cost effective. So keep that in mind. Or if you're already a 2-story and you're actually at the setbacks on the lot, or you can't expand, you're at the max footprint, then your hand is forced. Then it's time to sell and go buy another property.
So when you start going, you think about selling or buying another property, these are a lot of different factors that go into it. Again, we're talking at the beginning just about how difficult it is for people to maintain certain aspects of maybe their home or real estate. But if you're making choices on real estate, there's so many factors to consider, and people who try to do it themselves, I think, must have a tough time.
Yeah, I see. Like any amateur, you get to a point where you're frustrated. You don't have the answers you need. Like me, I sometimes try to be an amateur mechanic, and then inevitably there's a tool I don't have, and I'm thinking, should I buy this $250 tool, or should I just take it to the dealership and get over myself? So, yeah, realize that...
What do you usually do, Mike?
Get over myself.
You're like, I got a whole garage full of $250 tools I've used once.
Exactly. Yeah, there's just a wake-up point. It's just not efficient. So, once again, go line up the experts that can give you the answers you really need so you can run all the numbers and figure out, okay, should I remodel or should I sell?
Okay, so let's say you decide to sell. And in this market, certainly selling is something that is a very feasible idea, because if it's priced right, it'll pretty much fly off. How do you pick, you put it on, and now all of a sudden you have, maybe 2, 4, 6 offers that come in. How do you recommend people actually pick the right offer?
There's a lot to that, and there's things are much more subtle or much more complex than just looking at the biggest number out there. For example, you have 2 offers. Let's just go with a straightforward scenario. One's at $450, but they're asking for $8,000 in closing costs that the seller credits to the buyer. So now you're looking at a net offer of $442. You've got another offer that only bid to $445, but they're the best offer because they're not going to ask you to pay any closing costs. So if you have, the closing costs factored in, and also you need to be aware of some loans like VA loans, the loan parameters mandate that the seller pays all of escrow. So there's anywhere from $700 to $900 fee that will come out of your net. And then there's another $300 fee in there on the financing addendum. So all of a sudden, if one offer outbids the other by $1,000, but you as a seller have to pay $1,100 in fees, now all of a sudden the second offer is actually $100 net better. So, a lot to that.
Yeah, and so you have to be able to, really understand what is going to make the best offer. And then, we talked about this too, or I want to talk about this, is that, you can choose to have a contract on your house or you can choose to sell it. Because there's a lot of people who get contracts with people who can't necessarily close.
Oh, all the time. Yeah, and sometimes you take an offer, and I've seen this a couple times, and, like, for example, I've got a listing in Ballard. We have a buyer who has financing through 3 different lenders. They chose this one lender, who I won't name. The lawyers will probably crush me. They're a huge lender, and they have a very antiquated type of transportation as their symbol, if that's any help. At any rate, they are notorious for being awful with appraisers. They pay well below standard, and then they constantly pull appraisers from out of area. So you end up with, like this listing of mine, the appraiser came in and gave no value to a fully permitted mother-in-law, which is probably a $20K value. So be advised that you might have a buyer who looks great, 30% down, but if they use a lender that's difficult, you're not actually going to be able to close this.
The lenders are becoming so much more important in the transaction than it used to be, aren't they?
Oh, they're the linchpin. I mean, none of us consumers can buy a home unless we're wealthy enough to use cash without a lender green lighting it. So, at the end of the day, we all live or die by the underwriter.
Yeah, it's and just the professionalism. I mean, the speed in which somebody can get it done. I mean, it really does come down to making sure they can close.
Absolutely, and I got to be honest. That's why I advocate Cobalt. Every Cobalt loan I've been involved with has been outstanding. I mean,
that's an unpaid plug, by the way.
Yeah, no, and this is I'm not getting compensated for that. That's the truth. They've been exceptional. So keep it up.
Yeah, we will. So you get into that financing piece, and so if you're working with a seller, what are you looking for as far as what qualifies as strong financing?
Well, we call up the mortgage broker. Let's say I'm representing the seller. I call up the mortgage broker for that buyer, and I grill them to the max extent that they will disclose. And now they are beholden to laws that say you can't overly disclose a buyer's position, but I have to say, hey, how strong is their job history? How squeezed are their debt-to-income ratios? I need to know if somebody's right on the edge, because then an underwriter is much more likely to say, no way, this person needs more reserves, or they're not getting a loan. So, I mean, it's very tough to try and find out who really is the best qualified.
How important is it to you that the lender actually answers the phone? Because there's a lot of out-of-state lenders. We compete with them. And there's out-of-state lenders who will actually, there's nobody there. It's just, you get to a phone tree, it's loan officer number 41368, or, whatever it is, and you don't have that access. Is that key when you start considering what buyer to take?
Oh, huge. Every broker in the state will say, yeah, I'd prefer to work with a local lender, somebody I can reach, somebody who's going to let me know if there's a problem so I can handle it sooner than later, versus when online banking first started, some of these places that a buyer could hopefully get a loan through were just black holes. You'd send emails, you'd hear nothing. And think about it. You have a home selling, so that seller can go buy another home. So that person can go buy another home. You might have 3 different people just completely hung up, a couple of million in transactions total, hung up on one lender who's just in cyberspace that cannot be reached.
What are some other pieces? I mean, the lending is obviously a big one. It's a big contingency within a contract. What are some other contingencies in a contract that maybe allow for a smoother operation, smoother close?
The inspection is absolutely huge. There's a lot of different ways to go about that. And the more aggressive the offering situation, the more inclined that buyer is, if properly guided, to go ahead and pre-inspect. You go ahead, you hire an inspector, and this is before submitting an offer. Then you can get as much knowledge as possible about the house. If you don't like what the inspector has to say about the house, you just don't submit your offer. Then you can go in and not have an inspection contingency on your offer, which means the seller is happier because they know you have very few ways to walk away from the contract. You are far more committed because the inspection contingency is such a wide open walk away. All of us brokers know it's just a cold feet clause along with an inspection negotiation.
So, you talk about being more committed, and we're here with Michael Busacca. Mike, when you talk about being more committed, how can you tell if somebody's committed? Are there other ways?
You look, too, sometimes you're selling a property, and you see 3 offers come in, and one's clearly from an investor. And investors are much more clinical in their approach. If they don't get their number, they'll walk away. Or they might be the best offer, you accept it, but then they see riper fruit down the road, they walk away from the deal you had and go get another piece of property. So I like to see how much emotional commitment that buyer really has, because some buyers are just bound and determined. They will go through lender after lender. They'll do whatever it takes to get that property.
Yeah. Well, Michael, thanks so much for joining us. We do have to go to break. Again, Michael Busacca with Skyline Properties. When we come back, hey, we're going to talk a little bit more real estate, but not necessarily buying houses or selling houses. This has a little bit more that you may not know as much about commercial tenants, commercial leases, how do these big companies get in these big malls and the big buildings, and how does that all work? We're going to find out with Matthew Royal coming up next. We'll be back.